Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RevOps Demos That Don't Suck. My name is Matthew Baum, CEO and co-founder of RevOps Co-op, a community of 9,000 plus RevOps folks and folks who are passionate about revenue operations from all across the globe. And today we are talking to Sandeep Jain, who is the CEO and co-founder of MonetizeNow. MonetizeNow is the world's first integrated quoting, billing, and usage platform that is built for the B2B SaaS enterprise specifically. And before I kind of go on and tell you more about Sandeep or MonetizeNow, I'm just going to turn it over to him and kind of let him introduce himself and also introduce the company real quick. So Sandeep, welcome, and why don't you give us a quick little spiel or lowdown on yourself and MonetizeNow.
Awesome, Matt. Good to be here. I love RevOps Co-op community, by the way. I think your email signature still probably might say 6,000. I heard 9,000.
Yeah, it's hard to stay on top of that sometimes. So yeah, we gotta get that updated.
Cool. No, as Matt said, I'm the co-founder and the CEO of MonetizeNow. People always ask about what's the world's first part of that. So this was back a study. We did this in 2019. And that was the idea of enterprise monetization platform came together, because CPQ and billing systems have traditionally been separate. And we were the first ones to say, well, hang on, for SaaS, that separation does not make sense. It did make sense, by the way, for the non-SaaS world. And that's how things were happening for the last 20 years. So yeah, the company is about 2.5 years old. Our customers are high growth B2B SaaS enterprises. They are as young as startups that are just figuring out their revenue strategy. And they're companies with like close to $1 billion in revenue that have systems set up and are struggling with either self-serve, usage billing. The left hand of CPQ does not talk to the right hand of the billing, and you need to move at 1,000 miles per hour. So yeah, that's a quick intro.
Nice. I love that. And it's not, I know for a bunch of these, it's not kind of often or that we always get to talk to the CEO and the co-founder. And so I always like to kind of ask the question specifically of kind of the origin story. Take us back to, 3 years ago as you were maybe, kind of pre-starting the company. Like, what problems did you see out there? And why did you kind of decide to tackle those problems and build a solution for them?
Sure. My story is kind of unique. It's non-traditional as far as startups go. I was not planning to start a company in this space. So that's the most unorthodox thing probably you have heard from a founder say that. My goal is to build $1 billion revenue company. And I was looking at some ideas. This is about 4 or 5 years ago, even before MonetizeNow started. And I was looking to start something in customer support, which I think is still terrible. If you use any SaaS product, if you're stuck, you have to leave that context and go somewhere. It's a terrible experience. It still is. And I was talking to a lady at Zendesk about this thing, and she heard my idea. She said, it's a great idea, but if you want to build $1 billion enterprise, I have another idea for you. Our billing sucks. And at that time, I had some experience on billing, but not as hands-on as she was talking about. She was using Zora and Salesforce CPQ at that time. And her biggest complaint was these products were not built for SaaS, and Zendesk as a company cannot make more revenue. And at that time, I was like, well, I don't know, tell me more. Like, what do you mean by they're not built for SaaS? She said, well, do your homework. But we know that we have looked around. There is no product that exists that understands SaaS business models of amendments, renewals, self-serve, customers coming from CRM, reseller motion, in-product upgrades. And so she left me with that idea. But the thing is, I didn't know anything about the problem. So I went on LinkedIn. I'd literally talked to 200 strangers, and I was trying to put the pieces together. So a few things that came out was there's a public company that has 300 people, Matt, working on the billing problem. Mm-hmm. 300 people. This company has $3 billion in revenue. There was another public company that spent not 3, not 30, but close to 250 million in getting this problem right. Mm-hmm. So everywhere the pain was loud and clear. And my thesis of that problem was the problem is happening because CPQ and billing systems have been separate. They need to be together. This is kind of a revolutionary idea from because people were just building CPQ and just building billing. And I was the first one to say like they need to be combined. It's actually a challenging problem, both technically and selling wise. Because CPQ was sold to VP of sales, billing is sold to VP of finance. Now, if you put them together, who are you selling this to?
Yeah.
Right. But I've seen this story earlier in my life in firewalls where I'll just mention this. I don't know how many people are familiar with this. There used to be a space called IPS, intrusion prevention systems, and network firewalls. IPS is to CPQ as network firewalls is to billing. So what happened in that space was IPS ceases to exist right now. IPS and firewalls came together and they were called next-gen firewall systems. I see a similar trend happening in our space now where CPQ, standalone CPQ is going to become extinct. And we saw news about standalone CPQs trying to get more pieces. So anyhow, I think that's a long answer for your short question, but that's sort of the history of the company. So
that's great. I love that. And so, so you saw kind of this problem out there, came across it in a non-traditional way. So I guess talk to us about maybe the solution or some of the things that you're doing within the MonetizeNow product to solve for some of those problems. You mentioned the kind of separate CPQ from the billing system. And so, maybe dive into a little bit more on like the pain that people experience there, like some specifics around that problem and how MonetizeNow solves for those things.
Sure thing. So before MonetizeNow came along, this is what was on your left-hand side. This is what RevOps people had to deal with, or actually they are still dealing with. So what you have is customers coming from different channels, right? And then inside this box, which is the revenue operation stack, you're dealing with multiple systems now, right? So typically in the green box, you'll have systems like Stripe, Chargebee, whatnot. In the pink billing box, you have more enterprisey systems like Zora, NetSuite, SAP. Coding is dependent on the CRM solution. So like Salesforce, CPQ, Deal Hub, and whatnot. Partner portal, this is one of the least explored parts of the revenue stack. So 95% is done manual, by the way, in this still. And there is now 15 startups in this usage billing space. And every month I hear another one coming up.
Yeah.
So the problem is you asked me a question, Cindy, what is the problem you're solving? So here's a problem from a RevOps person perspective. They have to deal with these multiple systems. And the problem is each system, and this is the core of the problem, each system comes with its own product catalog. So let's say you're using, I'll just make this up. Salesforce CPQ has its own catalog, right? Zora has its own catalog. And these languages are different. It's like you speaking Japanese, I speaking Cantonese, right? If we have to communicate often without a translator, it just becomes hard. So these catalogs are so disparate that you have to, anytime you do a go-to-market change, right? I need to do a pricing change. Oh my God, does my CPQ support this model? Does my billing support this? If you have usage billing, your problems are compounded even higher, right? Does my usage billing system support that? And your go-to-market motion ends up becoming a least common denominator of what all these systems support. This is a nightmare for a RevOps person. Because as a RevOps person, if I'm managing this stack, I'm always saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. And as a CEO, as a product person that you are talking to, you seem to be like the villain. Like, why is he or she not being able to figure this out? It's not a person problem. It's not even a tool problem. It's actually an architecture problem. And nobody gets that part. And people get mad at each other. And sadly, what has happened is the RevOps job has become very tactical and putting as a plumber, you're just putting the pieces together. I think this is bad for the RevOps person. This is bad for the company because you're not being able to make the money that you're supposed to. So the right architecture, forget MonetizeNow, like the right architecture is CPQ and billing to be in one system whatever solution you use or whatever. But if you don't get the architecture right, you'll never get the answer right. I mean, so that's the biggest piece that we started with. This is the new mantra. This is a new way of thinking, and people are embracing it right now. So I don't know.
That's great. Yeah, so it sounds like, in a lot of cases, right, and you've got it here on the left-hand side of the screen, is that, a lot of B2B SaaS companies have different channels, different ways of acquiring new customers, and all of those channels essentially have different tools, different systems, different product catalogs, which, the more you start to add, the more complex anything gets. And yeah, it's people heavy, it's time intensive. You update one thing and you got to go to a different tool and for a different channel to update the same thing there to make sure that everything is on the same page. That sounds like it takes a whole bunch of time, and like you said, it slows you down and it ultimately gets in the way of you generating revenue faster, right? Which is kind of the end goal for everybody.
Yeah, and as a CEO, as a founder, I should be held accountable to building a product, right, that can serve the needs. And I should assume that this revenue operations works like electricity, like it's there. It can turn in any direction I want to, it can do anything. And so that's the change that we are sort of bringing about.
Yeah, that's great. And so you get everything into one platform here. And so, I was going to ask next about some of the specifics. So why don't you give us a rundown on that?
Right. So if you just open the box now, right? So we just did 100,000 foot view, but if you are at 1 foot view, what's happening inside the box? So this system is CPQ. So first of all, golden rule. If you forget everything about this presentation, there's one thing that you want to remember is this. Always have one product catalog in your revenue operation stack. If you're able to do that, you're set free. You can go to Hawaii, you can go to Fiji, you can have a nice time, right?
Yeah.
If you just maintain that axiom, that fundamental truth. So that's why I called it out here. Whatever tool that you're using, one product catalog. On top of that, now you have CPQ, the billing and invoicing is happening together. So this is a very powerful, simple yet powerful notion. Today, when you generate a code, it goes to the CRM. Billing people come to CRM, they copy the PDF contract into billing system, or somebody has done an automation, but it's still a problem. Imagine a world where anytime your sales rep do an amendment, a renewal on a quote side, invoice automatically generates. Like you don't have to do anything. If you picture that scenario, and I'll show you that in the demo, that's the most powerful sentiment. Subscriptions are managing through this platform. Provisioning, Matt, 99.99, I'm even willing to say 100% of the customers or 100% of the prospects out there have manual provisioning, which means that if the quote is closed, it goes to CRM, you mark the opportunity as closed won, somebody has to provision that, right? You have to turn on the service for the customer. Sales reps go to an internal portal, type everything what they just did in the code, and turn on the service, right? The customer is expecting the service to be turned on right away. There are errors that happen. So anyways, automatic provisioning. I bought this thing, just turn everything right now. We are the system of fast moving things, right? And then the important part is usage and consumption. I keep telling this to the RevOps teams that even if you're not considering usage right now, you can bet your money in the next 2 years, certainly in the next 4 years, you're going to try usage consumption. So you should not have another system, because once you do that, guess what it'll do? It'll violate the one product catalog rule.
Yeah.
So this architecture has to support consumption billing natively. So what that means is your product should be able to send usage to this natively. And then it needs to have APIs. Why? Remember the self-serve that your product manager is saying that you need to do? How are you going to turn that on? You need to have APIs connecting to this system. So these are the basic building blocks, I would say, of any system that claims to be solving this problem. They should have all the pieces here.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And yeah, just as you're kind of talking or going from one-to-one thing, I think a lot of those things, I don't know, we all have a tendency to maybe take things for granted, like, oh, that's just the way it is, right? Like, obviously I have to manually provision to get a new customer started and spun up, and so you kind of take for granted that that's just that's just the way it is, right? Because it's never been solved for before. And, probably every company you've worked at in the past has had the same, sort of process, just a different looking internal portal. So yeah, I think if you start to, challenge the status quo a little bit and question some of those things that, maybe you're taking for granted, that there is a better way, right? There are solutions out there to those problems. That it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be a thorn in your side that, kind of exists, that it can be solved for.
Yep. And one thing I like to add with this is when I present this to people, they love the idea, but then they say, Sandeep, I already have a billing system. I don't want to solve that problem right now. I just want to solve the CPQ problem, right? And so the way we have designed our system is incrementally so that you can use our system just as CPQ for now, clean up the data in your CRM. We will still have the billing engine working passively. And once you deploy the CPQ, you're happy. You can have the billing teams take a look at the billing engine and see the invoices are being generated correctly. And then they can decide to turn off, whether they want to turn off their existing billing engine or not. So you don't have to sort of nuke your way into the stack. You can use CPQ and then start expanding from there.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so, so it sounds like, obviously if you're in B2B SaaS, in RevOps and B2B SaaS, if you have separate CPQ tools, separate billing tools, separate subscription management tools, basically separate processes, product catalogs for the different channels that you're kind of selling to, that could indicate that a lot of those problems that you have don't need to be necessarily problems, right? That a product like MonetizeNow can kind of solve for a bunch of those things. And so now I'm obviously curious, kind of what the product looks like, because like you said, this all sounds great. I love the idea of having this all under kind of one umbrella, right? Or one tool, one solution. I'm a big believer in like simplifying everything that you possibly can, because the more people, more systems you have involved, the more complex some things get, right? And so the more, the less of that you have, the hopefully the easier it is to manage. So, so what does it look like?
Okay, let's go with that. Matt, before I go there, there's one thing I want to just highlight, which I think is the mistake that most vendors have made in this space, and I want to call this out. So if you look at this picture, what is the hero of this picture? It's the box in the middle, right? So you put your best engineers, your best minds in designing that. But guess what? There's a side hero to this story as well. And traditionally, they have been ignored. What I'm talking about here is connectors. So like connectors to your CRM, connectors to your accounting system. Now, why am I talking about that? That sounds like it's like a feature, just check mark. You've connected to HubSpot, Salesforce, you're done. No. All connectors are not created equal. I'll tell you the problem here. Let's take an example of Salesforce. Salesforce has standard objects and custom objects. If you don't pay attention to how your connector is designed, you'll end up creating a lot of custom objects. The problem is if you are a Salesforce admin worth your salt, you will see that model breaks very quickly for you because you don't want to deal with a whole lot of custom objects. Mm-hmm. So a good connector design is where you're utilizing the standard objects of Salesforce CRM as much as possible and extending them only when you have to. If you don't do that, as a Salesforce admin, you will have absolute nightmare in managing the system, even if everything in the central box is done. So whenever you're evaluating vendors in this space, do take a look at how these connectors are built and designed. So that was just one quick thing.
No, and that, and as you're transitioning, I'll mention that, like that makes a lot of sense because it's, I don't know, I guess the thing I thought of as you were talking about that is like kicking the can down the road or just like pushing the problem into a different, call it tool or system, right? You're like, oh no, like things are great here, right? You've got all this stuff under one umbrella and it's like, oh, that's great. But you've now created a whole slew of like other issues in a different system, right? Like, now I've got all these different custom objects in my CRM. And again, going back to what I mentioned before, the more things, people, tools, system, objects, right, that you have, like it makes it more complex and harder to manage. So sure, it might look great within the walls of like the product, but yeah, if you don't think about those connectors, that's where, folks can kind of be kicking the problem into a different tool or system. So yeah, good call out and making sure that people pay attention to that.
Awesome. So cool, Matt. With this, what I'm going to do in this demo is very specific. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some very relevant things because there's a lot of things to show. Configure the product catalog and see how that's synced to Salesforce, which is what the CRM I connected to, but it applies to HubSpot as well. This will take probably, I don't know, 5 minutes. Then I'll pretend to be a rep and I'm going to create a code, right? And let me add more spice to it by having consumption based, right? And then we will see how the invoicing works, right? So it's sort of a quote to cash, sort of the entire life cycle. And let's try to do this in, I don't know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes at tops. Is that fair?
Yep. Let's make it fun.
Awesome. So cool. So what I did was before I came to this call is I created a tenant, right? Now, somebody might ask, why is it relevant? Why do I care? The reason you care is because you want to experiment with your new pricing or new invoicing, and you need to be able to create these tenants quickly without calling support. Most of these products in this space have not been architected this way, and they charge you money. You can't need to call support. In our case, you just hit and create a new tenant. So this is what I did before the call. Let me spend a few minutes in the settings, and then we can go from sort of there. So I configured this fictitious company called Newco. Its information is here. Our system supports multiple currencies, so you can decide, like, does this tenant support USD or what? These are the currencies that we kind of support right now. And it's very important, by the way. So let's say, actually, I'll talk about this when I talk about the product catalog. So I'll hold off on that. Users and roles, super important. I'm the only person in this tenant right now, but you can add as many users as you want. We don't charge on how many users you have. If you're using CPQ, we only charge based on how many users you're actually quoting from the system. We have a RBAC, role-based access control. So if I'm a salesperson, I cannot touch invoicing or vice versa. So everybody has their clear swim lanes. So that's another part that I wanted to highlight. Billing side, we have dunning, which salespeople may not know about and should not even care about, I think. Approval rules. This is important for coding purposes. So what I've done is I've created 2 rules. We'll see how they get fired up when I do the coding experience. Is if the discount is greater than 10% on any item, add an approver. It can be a person or a team. You can group people together in a team and have the manager approve this as well. So there are lots of interesting things you can do with this rules engine. What else? Okay, let me talk about the validation rule. I haven't created this one. This is super important, super cool. So what happens is before the rep is submitting the code, you may want to tell a rep that you cannot have this combination because this is invalid. This is last year and this is this year. You can't have them together, right? So validation rules allow you to do 3 things. You can either stop a rep from doing what they're doing as an error. You can warn them that this is not an advisable code, like maybe based on the discount, or you can just do an infill. This is like Amazon kind of selling. If like you're buying an offering A, 90% of the times customers end up buying offering B as well. So why don't you sell them together? So you can call this, some people call it guided selling. So you can do that here as well. In terms of integrations, I connected quickly Salesforce to the system, right? But we have a connection with HubSpot as well. eSign is with DocuSign currently, which I haven't done. I don't think that's super relevant for the demo. And as a payment gateway, this is Stripe. We have a connection with, and we are building connectors with 3 other payment processors for now. All right, so with that, let me jump into the product catalog. But before I do that, the system is has 0 data. I just created a dummy thing for the test account, but it has no catalog. So let's just build a product catalog to begin with, right? First thing to note, these are the 5 products types that you can create in the system. So subscriptions, usage, one time, which is kind of straightforward. Then we have these 2 other higher level product types called minimum commit and prepaid credits. These two products get kicked into action if you're a consumption-based business model, because you can't just have pay as you go. You want your customers to commit to a certain amount every month. We have one customer that actually ramps that up over the contract period. So first 3 months, spend X amount of dollars, next 9 months, spend more money, right? All right, so let me just say number of users and the subscription. And let's assume that I'm an API company, so I'm going to charge you based on the API calls. Right? So I'm going to create a usage product here. So let's just say API calls. I'm kind of mindful of the time, so I'll just go very quickly on this one. But you'll get to see the good things in a second. And I want to show you something very interesting about how the minimum commits work with usage. So I'm going to create this as a product as well of minimum commit type. All right, so I've just created products. There's no pricing for now. So let's move on to offerings. An offering is, think of this as a bundle. You're putting things together that are sold together. That's what an offering is. Mm-hmm. It is not necessary that the customer buys everything in the bundle, but they're kind of sold together, and you can have multiple offerings, right? So that's what an offering is. So I can say I'm a new co. So this is my, I'll say, base offering, right? And I'm going to add users and APIs both to this offering. And I can have as many products in this offering as possible, right? And then I need to start assigning prices to this bundle. And the way you do that is by the abstraction of rates. And that's a very powerful tool, because now you can say, I want to offer this on self-serve with a different price than my reps. So you create two rates, one which is self-serve, and you can have a different pricing model as well. So you can price APIs on your website differently than what a rep sells. So that's the power of the rates. Some people call that price books, right? Imagine resellers. If you have a CDW, I'm just making that up, as a reseller, you'll create a rate specifically for them using rates. So this is one place where all the pricing related to this bundle is captured. Does it make sense, Matt? Just very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I like that. And where my mind is going is like thinking of, I'm having nightmare flashbacks to all the manual, like back in the day when I was VP of Biz Ops, of managing, trying to like have all this stuff in Stripe. And I just remember then, like you said, I mean, we were a growing startup. We had like a team of 5 or 6 engineers who were just internally devoted to helping us manage our kind of invoicing and billing system, and all of the manual processes essentially that I had to go through to keep all of this stuff up to date. It was just a massive headache. So I'm daydreaming a bit about how I could have spent all that time in Hawaii or Fiji, but instead of trying to manage all this stuff ourselves.
Yep. And this is what I was saying about all the pricing should be in one place, right? Yeah. Self-serve, resellers, reps. If you do that, your life is going to be really simple. So what I'm going to do is I just created this monthly rate, and the subscription frequency is monthly, and is advanced, and usage frequency is monthly here. And in terms of pricing, the users, we have different pricing models, but I just selected volume, and it's $10 per user per month because it's monthly. And then for APIs, I'm saying for the first 100 APIs, or you can just make that, I don't know, infinity as well. You can say APIs are priced 0.1 cents or 10 cents, sorry, per API call, right? So that's what it is. You can, if you want an annual rate, it's very quick. Let me just do that. So you can just clone the rate, and you say this is, sorry. I'm going to add this one here. I have the Zoom window that's kind of gathering for my attention as well. So this is copy of monthly. So I'm going to make this annual, right? So it's kind of easy. And you can say subscription frequencies annually. Instead of $120, you will charge $100. And I don't know, you want to give some discount on an annual pricing here as well. Something like that. Does it make sense overall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and let me just delete these rates, what I just created earlier. All right. So now you have monthly and annual, right? So I'll take a pause here. So I just configured the product catalog here, and let's see what's happening in Salesforce, right? So if you go to the product section here, you can see that these products, which I just created with you, they got automatically synced to Salesforce. This is a huge benefit to the RevOps team so that they don't have to deal with how Salesforce is creating price books. You can just leave that complexity to us. Huge benefit, right? All right, let's come back here. And so we just finished doing this. And what you can do is you can create standard discounts as well. That's nothing sexy here. Like, what is cool about this? The cool thing about this is the scope of the discount. You can say that I'm going to give 10% discount on users only. I don't want my reps to give this discount on APIs, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scope this discount to APIs only. So as a rep, you won't be able to attach this thing to users ever. Or I'm sorry, APIs, right? So this is on users only. So that was a cool thing I wanted to show you. But okay. So I just configured a mini product catalog, but I think you get a sense of what's happening, right? So let me now pretend to be a rep. So I take out my hat of RevOps person and I put the hat of the rep, the sales rep, and the reps live in Salesforce. I'm going to start from here, right? I don't care about what's in products or not. That's the job of the RevOps colleague of mine. Okay, so I'll look at opportunities. I'll live here day in and day out. I'm going to click this first one because that's something I need to follow up on. There's nothing here, zero data. Maybe somebody has entered an amount here, right? My BDR has done that. And now I need to send a quote to this customer, right? So, all right, let me hit create quote. And what's happening now is pulling the contacts that are created with this account. There are multiple contacts. Maybe I'm talking to Lauren, right? So I'll just hit create code. And now what happens is a separate tab opens in the browser. And okay, let me take a pause here. We spent a lot of time in deciding whether we want to build this on top of Salesforce as an app or a separate system. We decided no to building on top of Salesforce. And here's the reason why. Salesforce as a platform is good, but if you run an application on it, you're limited by what Salesforce platform can do for you. And in the listeners, if there are any people who have worked with Salesforce long enough, there are governor limits. It's slow. It's excruciatingly slow. So what we decided is our logic is going to be built in a public cloud, and we're going to use connector to exchange information between the two systems. Now, the drawback could be like, as a rep, I see a new interface, right? I was in Salesforce earlier, I was seeing a new interface, right? But this interface is faster, better, and it lets you get in and get out quickly. So there's a little bit of learning curve because anything new, you have to learn. But when the reps start using it, they love it. And this kind of separation, because it's faster and quicker, they kind of fall in love with it. It's not love at first sight, love at maybe the second sight. So, all right, so at this stage, we transferred 3 pieces of information from Salesforce. What happened? The account name, the contact, and the opportunity ID, right? So the biggest thumb rule is when we design the system is let the reps do as minimum as possible. CPQ is a unique piece of software that reps don't want to use. Because my job is to make commission, get my customer to accept the quote. I don't want to spend huge amounts of time in this system, right? So all the complexity has to be absorbed by the software, which I think traditional CPQs have kind of left it somewhere there. But anyhow, let's come back here. Okay, start date. I'm going to pretend this contract started earlier because I want to show you how the minimum commit works, right? Because the month of May and June, we get in July right now, right? So I want to show you 2 invoices that happened in the past with minimum commit. So let's backdate this contract. Contract length, you can have standard, you can have custom length, 16 months, which is typically what happens in, I would say, 20-30% enterprise deals. Expiration date, net terms. All right. This is a huge pain point, not for the rep. As a rep, I don't care, right? but my billing team cares deeply about this thing, right? So let's say I do net 45 firms. I get a signal here that I need an approval. Well, in this case, it'll be me because I'm the only person, but it'll be like finance team. And as a rep, now I know, man, I don't want to go to the finance team for the approval. So I'm doing something wrong here. So let me keep this with net 30. Less approvals mean faster quotes, right? So here you're guiding the reps to do the right thing and helping your finance teams as well, right? Okay, let's come to the offerings. We just created one offering, a multiple here as well. So there were two rates that I created, right? Monthly and annual. Let's do monthly. You can choose anything, by the way. Users, if I'm a new rep and I don't know what the pricing was, I can see the prices here as well. So I know that how many users are there. We also have account-based pricing, so I can edit the pricing here as a rep. So let's say if you're the RevOps person and I'm talking to, I don't know, Microsoft, big company, they're saying, oh, $10, I can actually charge them more. Why don't I increase the list price? Because I can, right? So instead of calling you, Matt, change the pricing, I can change the pricing here itself. And of course, you can create an approval rule so that approval rule gets fired, right? So you're helping the rep and also get the business done as well. So you can do that here as well. All right, so let me make this 10 users. There's pricing here quickly. And you know what? Let me just go and quickly configure the minimum commit thing, which I did not configure earlier because I want to show you that quickly. So I'll say minimum commit offering. It is type of minimum commit, and there's minimum commit here. And I'll say this is monthly. Quickly. And you'll see in a second what's going on. I'm just quickly going through this, coming back to the code here. All right. Also now I want to have a minimum commit with my user because this customer, I don't want them pay as you go. What I'm saying is you got to spend at least $500 per month with me, right? That's my CFO is going to get happy and I'm going to give you a discount here as well. And you can even ramp this up as well. So you can say, look, for the first, I don't know, 3 months, the minimum commit is $500. And after that, this is $1,000, whatever. You can do that as well. So there's a lot of knobs and thing here to help you close the deal or create the kind of deal that you want. So let me just get rid of that for the sake of simplicity. There's terms and conditions, the usual coding stuff. I'm not going to go in there. That's not the coolest part of the product. So it's a table stakes. All right, at this stage, you're done with your code. You can upload an MSA if you want, but let's go and click submit here. This is the code that gets generated. It has a PDF you can generate if you want because the customer is not ready to sign. So you can generate a PDF here and send that PDF to the customer. If you uploaded an MSA or an SOW, there's going to be one giant PDF with everything. So you're not sending like 3 or 4 PDFs separately, right? So you could do that as well. All right. And if e-sign was configured DocuSign, right? And let's say the customer, you send this to the customer says, yeah, it's great. Or Sandeep, I need to see like a 2-year code because I need better discounts, right? So at this stage, what you can do is you can copy the code and just make this deal for 24 months, right? And I don't know, give them more discount. So let's say I do a custom discount and I say, whatever, you get 15 or 14% discount in users. Well, hang on. I need to get approval. I don't want to go through that approval. So let me just go at the borderline of 10%, right? And I submit this. So I send 2 quotes now to the customer, 1-year and 2-year quote, right? So let's see what's happening in Salesforce very quickly, right? Let me refresh the screen here. So both of these quotes should now get synced up to Salesforce, right? And they should be tied to the same opportunity, which is what's happening here now, right? The system is also smart. I should have actually named my quotes differently. What it did is it selected the latest quote as a primary quote. And what is the price here? 14,160, right? It automatically updated the price of the opportunity with that price. So whatever my PDR did is not happening, right? So we'll stick with this deal. All right, does it make sense so far?
Yeah, no, okay. I like it. And you've done, like I said, I mean, you've been able to one, do a whole lot, but also provides so much flexibility, both from the RevOps perspective, but also the end user, the salesperson, the AE perspective but yeah, I mean, there's already just tons of value that folks can be had just up to this point, right? Of just creating the quotes, not having to navigate between like with Salesforce and do a whole bunch of stuff in Salesforce to make sure that that's updated to align with all the stuff you're doing in your in MonetizeNow. So yeah, looks great, Sandeep.
Sure. So two more things I want to highlight. One is you can customize this thing. Like I just turned off the billing schedule because I think that it might confuse my customer. So you can turn things on or off based on who your customer is. Second thing, okay, I'm the CEO of the company. I sign quotes from our vendors. And I can tell you that how a quote looks is sometimes how faster, or maybe even if I'll close the deal or not.
Oh yeah.
Because what I gotta say is the quotes are sometimes so confusing. I don't know what I'm paying for. And and cash flow is important, right? So you tell me exactly when is due and what is due, right? And I think we did a seminar earlier about CPQ where we called a sales rep, and what they were saying is, look, in this competitive environment, how well your quote looks is important in closing a deal. In fact, a CRO I talked to says that these things should be looked as a piece of art.
Yeah.
Not that because he's an art fanatic, but the better your quote looks, the more is a chance that you can close the deal.
Yeah.
Whatever system you're using, make sure your quote is something that you can give to a high school person and they can understand what they're paying for. If you've done that, you're good to go. All right, so let's come back here. I did not configure e-sign, but at this stage, if you've configured e-sign, it'll be sent to both parties. They'll sign, and this quote will be automatically processed, right? If you're using a separate e-sign solution, you just do a symbolic send here for now. And then let's say one of the customers says, Sandeep, the code looks good. You can accept it. You can do an e-sign offline. And you come back to the system and says, customer accepted offline, right? Whatever, and upload the signed PDF and we'll ship it off to Salesforce, right? At this stage, when you accept that, the code is processed now, and we create this beautiful object called contract. Why am I calling this object beautiful? This is the key that unlocks the beauty of SaaS, of amendments and renewals, right? So if you're a RevOps person and you've dealt with amendments earlier, you might know that you might create separate opportunities for each amendment. The problem is once you do that, you're trying to figure out a sense of what this customer owns currently. Renewal becomes a huge problem. Guess what brings sanity to that house? This contract object, because it'll keep on track of whatever you're adding, deleting, and cross-selling, so that renewal becomes like a Google search. You type something, magic happens, right? So, all right. So if we go to Salesforce quickly, and maybe in terms of how are we doing in terms of time, Matt?
Yeah, we've got about 12 more minutes that we're able to.
Okay. 5 more minutes, we'll wrap up the invoicing, right? So, all right. So I committed the code, and what happened is the opportunity was marked as closed won. You can decide how the code status maps to your state. Like we talked to some customers who said, I don't want to do closed won. I want to have some ops ready state. So you can map it here, right? Mm-hmm. So everything is done now. If you go to MonetizeNow here and look at this account, all right. So at this stage, what's happening is, voila, the invoice is created. So if you go back to the quote, let's just review our memory here. We agreed this deal starts from May 1st, and you're paying me $10 for 10 users. So it's $100 for the first month of May, right? And you've not used any usage, right? So the bill on the May 1st is $100, right? To get to this stage, I can tell you, Matt, the companies would be spending about close to 5 or 6 hours just to get to this state of invoice, right?
Yeah.
And this invoice you can send automatically. So the moment you close the code, the invoice is sitting in the inbox of your customer.
Yeah.
If you're the finance person and thinking about accounts receivable, this is like holiday season for you.
Oh, yeah.
This is a good news. All right. So let's see how the magic happens on the usage side. This is the first invoice, the easy part, right? So it tells you it's for the May, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how the usage billing happens now, right? And I'm going to do this manually, but these usage will be added to our system through an APIs as well in real life, right? So I'm going to come here and says that, you look, subscription is this period and usage is this period, right? So I'm going to come here and say, look, I want to add usage for the month of May, right? And you can add as many data points as you want, but I'll just add one for the sake of simplicity. And I'm going to say, I'm going to add 100 units here, right? So I just spent like $10, right? But the minimum commit, remember, was $500, right? So a true up should happen. So I come back here to the account, and this will be all happening automatically, but I'm just showing you how this thing works manually as well. So there's an invoice pending. The system is smart enough to know because you added usage, right? So a new invoice is created. So now let's see what this new invoice looks like. Okay. Remember the first invoice for the period of May, and you paid for subscription. This invoice is for the period of June. You got to pay me for the users for the June, which is $100, right? But for the previous month, you need to pay me for the usage. You're with me so far?
Yep.
Right. We added $10 worth of usage for the month of May, right? So the system was smart enough to figure out, look, your minimum commit is $500. So I'm going to add $490 as a line item.
Yep.
This is important because when you come to the finance, you need these line items to figure out what's going on with this account, right? This in of itself will take you a lot of time, by the way, just to do that part, right? So this is for the month of May. And of course, you can pay the invoices and whatever, right? Let me go to the month of June and add more usage there. So let's go here. And then let's say I'm going to add usage for the month of June. And I'm going to have like some large quantity, right? Because I want the more than the minimum commit here. So it's like 1,200 roughly worth of usage, right? Same thing. I come back here, bill groups, knock, knock. There's an invoice here. So you generate that invoice and let's see what that looks like. Voila. The system was smart enough to say, look, the minimum commit doesn't apply anymore, right? So you pay what you used, right? And so this machinery, this simple thing, by the way, if you're a consumption-based company, this is where you are headed right now. Not like, Stripe can do that, by the way, usage billing, right? Send me API, I'll tell you how much it costs, right? But where the billing systems break is in these concepts like minimum commit. I didn't even show you the RAM part. Like Stripe cannot do that, by the way. So your product team, your go-to-market team is going to come up with some very interesting usage billing models. And it doesn't matter whether your CPQ supports it or like both need to support it for you to be able to do that motion. The beauty of the unified architecture is you don't care. If the CPQ supports it, billing support will always be there. That's sort of the magic sauce in the system. And as a DevOps person, you're not now thinking, oh my God, how do I configure the product catalog in the billing system? Is the data getting synced or not? Leave this to the software. We are in the 21st century. This is what software are supposed to do. People are not supposed to do it. We are in the ChatGPT 4 world right now. I'll shut up. But this is what the quote to cash workflow is. Yeah.
We're not supposed to be pulling, exporting data into a spreadsheet in the first week of every month, right? It's first week of July. So you're not supposed to be, exporting that data, reworking it, manipulating it, trying to come up with the number that you then need to probably go into like a separate tool to invoice or bill from to send to your customer to then, probably prompt questions, right? Something's not clear, come back, relook at all of that data, and then repeat that process. Like that's not supposed to be the way that we work. So yeah, I love how that is all connected really from start to finish, right? From product catalog creation down to invoicing and billing. And so with that, Sandeep, so what's the how long does kind of implementation kind of take? I know you mentioned at the beginning some things around CPQ versus billing, starting with one versus the other. How do folks kind of get started, and what does that process look like?
Right. Implementation, as you can see, I just quickly configured the product catalog. So for new customers, our implementation runs somewhere between 1 to 3 weeks, depending on how fast they want to move. The long part of any implementation is what are you doing with existing contracts, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we figure out, like, we have 200 contracts to migrate versus 2,000, right? So that's we do as a piecemeal, right? But for the new deals setup, this takes not more than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We had one customer that went live in 2 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, like I was even thinking about like our own use cases, and I was like, oh man, like, yeah, that like, right, assuming depending on again the complexity and where you decide to start from, but if you just want to say like, let's just start with like the new stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, I could see how you could easily get up and running really, really quickly with that.
Yep.
And then we talked about obviously kind of folks that are a good fit, B2B SaaS. You mentioned everywhere from like the very kind of early stage of startups who are, first figuring out their revenue strategy to, billion-dollar companies. I guess give us can you tell us any examples of, say, current customers, different types of like revenue models that they might be on, just to give folks an idea of like who is a good fit for a platform like this?
So our biggest fit is B2B SaaS, right? In fact, we're closing business with a few customers in Europe right now. And we're getting GDPR data residency, and we have an entity in the Netherlands right now. But you asked the question about who's your perfect customer. So you have to be B2B SaaS, doesn't matter which space you are in. If you're dealing with subscriptions, usage, right?
Mhm.
And even one time, because and if you're Ring Central, you have to send some hardware with your
Yeah.
software service. So if you're struggling with subscriptions and usage, that's something we should talk. I mean, that's our ideal space.
Yep. And then tell us anything that you can in terms of kind of pricing. And I guess we talked about implementation a little bit, but how do you all price and charge for your own offering? I know you mentioned a little bit about like unlimited users or charging for people that quote. Give a sense of kind of how you MonetizeNow. And then, yeah, do you charge separate things for like implementation fees or any of that stuff? Like what are folks kind of looking at there?
Sure thing. So as I said earlier, people can use our system just as CPQ, right? If you're doing that, you're paying on a per coding rep basis.
Yep.
We make it even simpler. You pay us monthly.
Yep.
I hate it when enterprises come, at least in this environment, and say, pay me upfront X $1,000. And it's like, there's a cash flow to be managed. So we try to make it as easy on our customers as possible. So it's per rep, coding rep basis on the CPQ side. If you're buying the entire thing, you pay us on a percentage of revenue. And the way the math works is whatever you're paying, you're billing, like Stripe charges close to, I don't know, 0.4 to 0.8%. And that's where all the billing systems go, percentage of revenue. We're like, give us that money that you're paying your billing engine. You get CPQ, usage billing, APIs as part of that package. And then it starts dawning on people, oh my God, I'm getting a lot of value with the money that I was just giving a billing provider.
Yeah.
So that's where sort of the maths works for our customers. Implementation, new implementation, we don't charge anything for that. But I mean, if you have like 2,000 contracts that need to be migrated, we look at that basis and we give you a reasonable code.
Yeah.
Our goal is not to make money off of that.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make you successful and, of course, charge for the product. And service is something that we are doing it at cost, by the way.
Yeah. And then kind of last question, since I know we covered a lot, was yeah, what's the thing that is like the biggest differentiator, the biggest, like your secret sauce compared to other folks in the space, incumbents, manual processes? Like what's the one thing that you want folks to leave with in terms of what puts you on top versus the others?
Right. That's a great question, Matt. And I'll tell you this thing. So you see in this space, remember the chart that I was showing you with the box revenue stack with multiple boxes, right? Now, if you're an existing vendor, what's happening to you? You know that this is an eventuality, right? So you're trying to jump and buy things in that space because you cannot build that. Salesforce did that. All the vendors have done that. The problem is whenever you buy things from outside, they will have a different product catalog, right? So just by buying these things and putting them in a single price book does not solve the underlying problem that these two products have different product catalogs. It's like you're trying to marry two cars with two different engines. It's just does not work. So the biggest secret sauce for us is you have to design this system from the get-go. You cannot say, well, I'll build the CPQ first, or I'm building a usage billing company first, and then I'll decide to do CPQ. You can do this as a sales strategy because you can't sell to everyone, right? But from a product perspective, if you don't build your product on day one, understanding all these scenarios, you're going to do a disservice to your customers. So the biggest secret sauce is we realize that, and we build this day one, not day 10, day 100. I don't know.
Yeah, it comes, well, it comes down to, like you said, the architecture and the approach to kind of building that foundation. Like you said, a lot of the folks that are either currently in this space or a lot of the tools that people are trying to stitch together were started how many years ago when, right, like technology was different, business models were different, the market was different, right? And the fact that you approach things with that perspective from day one in today's market, right, with today's business models in mind and the way that people do business, the way that people will be doing business, like that's a huge differentiator. It allows you to go from, start to finish, like you just showed us, very quickly, very efficiently, very effectively, and all within one tool, one platform, something that, again, would have otherwise taken people, days, weeks to do the flow that you showed us. So yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, and one last thing I'll quickly add, Matt, is, and this is on the human side. This earlier thing was on the product side. I realize how important RevOps is for not only just RevOps people, but to the company. Because if this engine is having a problem, you can't make money. So the way we deal with our customers is we treat them as partners. So we are on Slack with them. We understand what their problems is, and we work in, I guess, quickly, we don't work in a customer-vendor relationship. We work as partners because of how critical this system is to the success of the company. And I think whatever vendors people want to work with, make sure that you're not being treated as just a account closed and commission earned. You are being treated as a partner because your requirements are going to change. It's not an HR system, which is static, mostly. Your requirements, and then you're going to go back to vendor and say, why did you build this for me? And are you in the line where nobody even talks to you? So just make sure that you're working with a vendor that understands the dynamic, especially for this space. So
yeah, no, 100%. And I think, at least for me, I know that that mindset, I think, has come across loud and clear, even in some of the stuff you mentioned throughout this demo, where it's very clear, like, hey, like whether you go with us or some other tool, product, platform, like try to abide by these rules, right? The one product catalog rule. Ask people about their connectors. Make sure that you're trying to unearth, kind of uncover these rocks and these other potential problems. Like that partnership mentality, I think, is very much embedded in the way that you do things, Sandeep. So yeah, I think that's great, and it makes tons of sense. And with that, I think product looks amazing, looks incredible. I think anyone who's kind of watching, if, again, whether you're in B2B SaaS or not, if you've got subscription-based business, usage-based business model, if you're covering or experiencing all those challenges around separate CPQ billing systems, different product catalogs, things like that, definitely take a look at MonetizeNow. You can be up and running, like Sandeep said, a day, 2 days, as quickly as that. So kind of a no-brainer, I think, for me. So with that, Sandeep, I will let you run, my friend, but thank you very much for kind of sharing your time, sharing your expertise, and kind of giving us a peek under the hood. Product looked amazing and incredible.
thank you for having me, Matt.